Alex, a 38-year-old civil engineer, had always considered his life successful. Living in a cozy suburban home with his wife Emily and their son Nick, he felt like their family embodied stability and happiness. He had built everything with his own hands: a successful career, a steady income, a comfortable home, and a close-knit family. Emily, his wife, was his first love. They had met back in college, and since then, their relationship had only grown stronger. Alex took pride in his family. Every evening, he came home knowing that his beloved wife and son were waiting for him. Nick was 12 years old and a true daddy's boy. He loved helping Alex around the house, learning small repairs, and dreamed of following in his father's footsteps. The best part of Alex's life was his close friends, whom he had known since childhood, especially Chris, his friend from elementary school. Chris was a successful lawyer, and on weekends, he often visited them. Alex cherished these evenings when his family and friends gathered around the big table. But despite the outward appearance of well-being, Alex had started noticing something strange deep down. In recent months, Emily had become more distant, often saying she was tired. She hugged him less before bed, and their conversations had dwindled to routine matters. Alex chalked it up to work stress, never suspecting that something far more profound was behind this distance. One day, Alex came home from work a little earlier than usual. The yard was quiet and empty, but Chris' car was parked in the driveway. Alex wasn't surprised. Chris visited often and sometimes came early to help Emily with something or play with Nick, while Alex was still at work. But something felt off. Emily usually greeted him at the door, happily kissing him on the cheek, but today there was no sign of her or Nick's usual welcome. He walked into the house and immediately felt the tension in the air. His heart tightened. In the living room, Emily and Chris sat unusually close to each other. Both looked embarrassed, and when they saw Alex, a silent spark of unease passed between them. This wasn't just awkwardness. It was something more. Emily, nervously adjusting her hair, broke the silence. "We need to talk," her voice trembled, and Alex felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He sat down across from them, feeling as if the world around him was shrinking. Questions flashed through his mind. What happened? Why is Chris here? Why does his wife seem so distant? "Alex," Emily began, avoiding his gaze, "I've been struggling with this for a long time, but I can't hide it anymore. Chris and I," her voice faltered and she stopped, fighting back her emotions. Alex tensed as if bracing for a blow, but he couldn't force himself to speak. She continued, "We love each other, and I want a divorce." Those words pierced Alex like a knife. He didn't immediately grasp their meaning. His eyes wandered around the room, but his mind couldn't process what he had just heard. How? Emily and Chris? It couldn't be true. Just yesterday, they were happy, laughing at dinner, planning their vacation. Alex tried to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. He looked at Emily, then at Chris, his best friend, who now seemed like a stranger. The betrayal by the two people closest to him blinded him, like a spotlight shining directly in his eyes. "Have you been cheating on me?" Alex finally managed to choke out, unable to believe his own words. Emily didn't answer, but her eyes said everything. Chris, sitting beside her, tried to intervene. "Alex, we never wanted it to happen this way," he began, but Alex shot to his feet. "Shut up!" His shout filled the silence of the room. "You're my friend. You betrayed me." Emily grabbed Chris's hand, but Alex continued, "You both betrayed me. You destroyed my life." Breathing heavily with rage, Alex grabbed his jacket and stormed out of the house. He ran across the yard, not knowing where he was going, just needing to get as far away as possible from the lies, from these people who, it turned out, had been deceiving him all along. Alex stopped at an old bench in the small park near his house. He sat down, breathing heavily, oblivious to the cool wind blowing from the river. His mind was in chaos. The betrayal, which seemed impossible, had become reality. His wife, the woman he loved more than anything, with whom he had gone through so much, and his best friend, the person he trusted like a brother, had betrayed him in the most despicable way. His head throbbed with thoughts, and the pain in his chest was unbearable. Alex felt betrayed, crushed, as if his life had suddenly lost all meaning. Everything he believed was his, everything he had worked for, turned out to be a lie. He wanted to scream, but even that wouldn't bring relief. The only thing that kept him from sinking into complete despair was Nick, his son. How could he leave him? How could he explain to his son that the family he thought was unshakable had fallen apart? Alex knew that it would hurt Nick to find out the truth. And what would become of their relationship now? There was one thing he was sure of. He had to fight for his son, if not for himself. But how could he move forward? How could he live in the same house with a woman who had betrayed him? How could he look his son in the eyes, knowing that everything had changed forever? Several hours later, Alex returned home. Emily and Chris were gone. The house was quiet, almost empty. Nick was at a friend's place, and Alex felt relieved that he didn't have to explain to his son what had happened just yet. He went upstairs to the bedroom and collapsed onto the bed, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle in. That night, he barely slept. His mind raced with thoughts, memories of happy moments with Emily, moments of friendship with Chris, and now, betrayal. Alex was suffocating from the pain and anger. But beneath that rage was fear. How would he go on? Could he and his son get through this? Weeks passed. Alex filed for divorce. Emily agreed to leave the house and let Nick stay with him, and she moved in with Chris. At first, Nick didn't understand what was happening, and Alex tried to explain things as gently as possible. He didn't tell his son that his mother had cheated, but Nick was smart, and he figured out that something serious had occurred. Life moved on, but everything was different. Alex tried to focus on work to distract himself from the pain. He spent a lot of time with Nick, taking him to his practices, helping with his homework. But every evening, when the house fell silent, the memories came flooding back. Still, over time, the pain began to fade. Slowly, Alex learned to live with this new reality. He developed a habit of running in the mornings to clear his mind and restore some sense of balance. It became a form of healing. Step by step, he regained control over his life. One day, while returning from work, Alex noticed a woman at the cafe near his office. She was attractive, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Her name was Victoria, and she worked there as a barista. Each time Alex went in for coffee, they exchanged a few words, until one day, Victoria invited him to dinner. Alex agreed to the dinner with a slight sense of nervous excitement. It had been a long time since he had felt so alive. His life seemed to be regaining new colors. Victoria, with her gentleness and warm smile, had become a ray of light in his otherwise dark reality. They met at a small restaurant near the city center. Victoria looked stunning. Her simple dress accentuated her natural beauty, and her confidence and ease in conversation immediately captivated Alex. During dinner, they talked at length. Alex shared a bit about himself, his work, and how he was raising his son. He tried to avoid delving too deeply into his past with Emily and Chris, but Victoria was surprisingly perceptive and didn't press him for details. In turn, she shared her own story. She had moved to this city from another region after a divorce, started a new life, and found fulfillment working in a cozy cafe she had grown to love. That night, for the first time in a long while, Alex felt truly alive. After dinner, they strolled through the city streets, talking about everything under the stars. He marveled at how easy it was to be with her, as if the heavy burden he had carried over the past months was finally beginning to lift. When he walked her home, Victoria smiled softly and thanked him for the evening. Alex realized he wanted to see her again, and the thought warmed him. A few months flew by. Alex and Victoria grew closer. They spent evenings together, walked in parks, and she even met Nick, who, to Alex's relief, quickly bonded with her. Their relationship developed naturally and easily, without the drama and conflict that had worn Alex down in the past. However, despite the happiness of his new relationship, Alex couldn't fully escape the shadow of his past. He found himself thinking more and more about Nick and how the divorce had affected his son. Nick tried to appear strong, but Alex knew it was tough for him. From time to time, Nick would mention his mother, and Alex realized that despite everything, his son missed her. One day, after one of those conversations with Nick, Alex came to a realization. He needed to finally close the old wounds. He had never truly talked to Emily since she had left. Their communication had been limited to lawyers or brief, emotionless texts about Nick. It was time to meet her face to face and discuss their son's future. He called Emily and suggested they meet at a cafe. She agreed. Alex arrived early and waited nervously. When she walked in, he felt an odd sense of relief. Emily looked a bit different. Her face was tired, and her eyes carried a hint of guilt.